I agree. Well, thank you all for being here. Can we get another quick round of applause for the people on the stage real quick? Can we get like, whoa! Although one time, get the energy up in here. Thank you to Multichain Day, to Wrapped, and to all the partners for making this possible. Thank you guys for being on the stage with me and for all the great work you're doing. Just as we get started, I'd love if we could just go down and do some quick intros, who you guys are and what you're building.
Hey everybody, my name is Kanishk and I run the DevRel team here at Across. My focus has primarily been to make sure that all our partners, our integrators, and our lovely developer community are well supported when they're trying to build literally anything. I'm talking perp taxes, I'm talking a text swap, I'm talking literally any app that comes to your mind. And we're trying to shift the narrative where an app that is deployed on chain ABC can now have access to liquidity from literally any chain. Because what every builder here needs is users and liquidity. And once you deploy, you have very little leeway to find another chain without, the resources that you need. So basically, that's where Across comes into the picture. Helps you bridge to and fro through any chain that you like and any chain that you love. And my focus here is to make sure that every developer is well supported on their path to achieve this. So yeah, that's what I do, and that's what Across is for.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh. I lead product at Solair. A bit of background about Solair. We're a hardware accelerated chain. About layer 1, built a lot with Solana technology, but we kind of use hardware acceleration to make it go really fast. So we're thinking around 300,000 transactions per second right now. That's been benchmarked, and we're going to push towards 1 million. Also very low latency real-time features to kind of help with unlocking the next generation of apps. So we're looking at several kind of key areas. The first one being your trading apps, perp dexes, prediction markets, things like that, as well as number 2, like your payment apps, right? So as the network grows, you have a lot of transactions, justifies the kind of throughput that we are offering. Last one being something like AI agents or consumer, where we're exploring new kinds of interactions where maybe you have each user has 10 agents and you have 10 agents transacting on your behalf, then it justifies that you need that level of throughput. We also do have a payments app, a crypto card, and a lot of other primitives like a yield bearing stablecoin, staking, stuff like that, so that people building on our chain don't have to engineer all of these off-chain systems themselves from scratch. They can focus on building the product and hook into any of these like primitives that we built. And then we can get into all the interop and the cross-chain stuff in a bit as well. But that's a good long and short on Solair.
Hi, I'm Brian Whippo. I lead the developer relations team at the Algorand Foundation. I want to thank everyone at the Foundation for helping make Multichain Day what it is today. A lot of effort goes into these events behind the scenes. At the Algorand Foundation, we promote the Algorand blockchain. It is a general purpose layer 1, but we are particularly focused on powering the future of finance. These are payments-based use cases, real-world asset tokenization use cases, DeFi, of course, at scale. Right? A blockchain that just works, that's very easy to build on, with incredible developer tools and languages, like we were just talking about. And one of the things that you can do on Algorand is participate in the multi-chain, cross-chain ecosystem, through bridges and interoperability protocols. And looking forward to talking about that with my friends here on stage today.
I love it. And I love how we have, the various sides of the industry that combined into one force. Literally the entire industry could operate through Solair, Across, and Algorand. So I think this conversation is going to be really beneficial for everyone. I think the way that I love to start it, and we can kind of snake, so you can start with this one, and then, as we move through it, we're coming into this in a very different macroeconomic climate, a very different, the industry remains the same. We're still here building, but it's a different climate than the last time that we were at ETHDenver. And I'm curious, from where you guys are coming, as you continue to build, as you continue to roll out various different products, innovations through your different businesses, how has this changed the way that you guys are approaching your business? Are there pivots that you guys are making, or where do you see kind of the silver lining in this moment that maybe other people are overlooking? And I'd love if we start over there.
Sure, I'll take that one first. So when I go to software conferences, sometimes I address the fact that we are off the peak of hype, right, in the Gartner hype cycle. And what that means is we're quietly building, right? It's not the bull market like it was. There's not the same level of energy. AI has the tendency to suck all the oxygen out of the room, right? But there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on, in particular because a lot of the businesses that have been building on blockchain for years are entering the regulated domain, right? In major economies in Europe and the US and elsewhere, it's not the Wild West anymore. And so you don't get the same amount of hype. And yes, it is a bear market, but from the technology side, there's never been a more exciting time to be building in this space.
I guess from my side, I think that it's in general, yes, some oxygen has been sucked out of this space, but I think it's healthy in the long term because now everyone's focusing on your fundamentals, revenue, right? I think you start a business, you're going to focus on revenue, and that's what you should focus on. And then everything comes from there, like a multiplier on top of that, right? Different industries have different multipliers, but on the very basis, you need revenue. And our team, we're based out in Silicon Valley. We are very familiar with the ups and downs with technology. But at the same time, through these cycles, it's always been fundamentals like your revenue, right? And I think that's good because it kind of reallocates resources to its projects that have that staying power and people who are focusing on good products that people use as an actual use case for it. For us, at least how we're tackling it is that we're going very product led. So we're going to focus on products and saying, hey, what do people use? What would they pay for? What actually drives volume? And then we generate the revenue. And we also help our ecosystem generate the revenue. So that kind of trickles down from the top. So we build our own products on our own chain. We dog food our own infrastructure. So we also know what problems they are deploying on our chain. We fix them and then we iterate from there. So we are our own biggest customers. And we will also hope that as we generate revenue, we're going to pump it back in the ecosystem and it's going to start that flywheel. And then when the next bull cycle, the next kind of regulation kind of catches up, liquidity pumps in, we are there to capture all of that because now the flywheel is already in motion in that sense. Yeah, I'll pass the time to you.
I'm actually really happy that we mentioned the bear market because right now all the tokens I like are at a sale and I can get all of them as quickly as I can. And literally most of them are at like a 50% discount. But jokes apart, I've actually seen this climate change from in 2021 where we all were used to 7-day bridging. And the norm was just like, fine, I will bridge and 7 days later, I'll take my tokens out and then I'll do whatever I want with them. To now, where even if I tell a user, hey, this bridge transaction can take 5 seconds, they lose their shit. 5 seconds is too slow, you know? And that's where we are now. So the political climate, the geoclimate, and this is applying to all the blockchains. And I think both of you can agree that the faster it is, the better it will be, and the more developers and users you attract. That's kind of where we are with the cross to make sure that we get you like more than enough tokens that you can even think of. And then the second part of this is, of course, protection and security, because I can launch a shitcoin today. And through all the DEXs that exist, somehow every Interop protocol will support it. But then the liquidity depth of this particular shitcoin can be something which will scam a lot of users, wherein they'll see a particular price, but when you actually go to execute the transaction, the pool will just flip all over again. So that's kind of where we are focusing on making sure that when a user comes to our platform or when a developer uses our APIs, everything that they see is the experience that the users will get. There are all kinds of guardrails built in, and all you have to do is just use one API as a developer, and you're done. So that's kind of where we are. We saw the norm change. We saw people's behavior change. So we even adapted our app to it, and now we've completely gone from being just a bridge to being a cross-chain swap that supports about 25 chains and about 30,000 tokens. And that's where we are at.
I love that. And I think this is the perfect segue, right? Because as we see the industry begins to mature, the industry becomes more interoperable. We're able to move cross-chain more seamlessly. You know, you use the 7-day bridge analogy as a perfect example of how far we've come, right? Where now things are starting to look more like a Web 2 environment where people want things to happen fast. If my Google's not loading fast enough, I'm crashing out. So, you know, as you guys are looking at, you know, these advancements that are happening in the industry and you're all participating in those advancements yourselves, where are you seeing where, you know, the multi-chain interop future is, or the present rather, is still falling short? What are the gaps that we still need to solve?
I think there's so much to unpack here. First of all, making sure that AI agents, any kind of MCP servers, they are first-class citizens of your tech stack. This means you should have extremely easy access for an AI to read your documentation, index the documentation in a language and a format they understand. So that's usually the skills.md file that is becoming really, really popular now. But more importantly, it's also to make sure that when you actually go and execute transactions and for some reason they don't work, which can happen. Come on, blockchains are not perfect. In that sense, how comfortable is your developer is figuring it out themselves, an agent figuring it out themselves, and B, that's the last part of this is you being the support. So are they able to reach out to you? Is Discord relevant still for you? Because very recently there was a big debate between Modfo and a couple others DeFi protocols, which was literally just that, hey, we're shutting down Discord. It's going to be read only. We don't really care about all what's happening there. And the spam infra has increased more than the constructive infra. So in my mind, where we are falling short of is providing the right amount of support, making sure agentic systems can work with interop protocols quicker. And most importantly, it's also just to make sure that when a new chain launches, everybody jumps on it, right? And when people jump on it, do you as an interop protocol expose your users to where the right opportunities are? Because, okay, I hold a token, I'm not going to take names because I'll probably get sued for that. But, but like, where are the opportunities in this space? I think if an interop protocol can guide the users to do that, that's pretty cool as well. We kind of try to do that with Hyperliquid, but then Hyperliquid is on steroids right now. There's a new protocol launching in every 3 days. So it's pretty easy with that. But everything else, I just feel, so yeah, just security, exposure, and support.
I think from my side, it's probably going to be on two fronts. One of them is going to be more on back to like basics, like the use case. You bridge to a chain to accomplish a task. Like, what is that task? If it's just trading a shitcoin, I think that's going to run out soon because, like, especially when liquidity dries up and everyone's like tired of something, you can launch 1 billion of those shitcoins. No one's going to buy it, right? But if it's, hey, if you're going to do this to do payroll, employer and record, if you're going to do these things that companies pay for regularly, or on consumer side, P2P payments, things like trading, but trading actual assets, like things that people want to buy, people have been buying for a long time. Now you add in leverage, you add in other kinds of things that make it more interesting, more like use cases, right? You're driving a new use case that's not possible right now in traditional finance. That's where the interoperability makes sense. And then you add in all the other stuff. How do we make it faster? How do we make it more like user friendly? And that kind of leads into the second thing I was going to tackle, which is more on the finality of things, because and like also like the latency in that sense, but more on the finality. Because like finance has moved from T+3 to 1. It doesn't just go to 0. It needs to rewire it to be real time. Because if you think about it from like I mentioned this at a couple of other conferences as well, when you're checking your email, it used to be like when you're logging into, I guess, the internet. You go to your email, you wait for an OTP, you hit the refresh button on Gmail. You're like hitting that. And that's what the status of blockchains is right now. You don't know when the transaction actually finalizes. You got to check again and again and again. But once real-time kind of infrastructure was built for the internet, then people had callbacks, people had all these things that were built on top of it, where now it's real-time, where something happens and you know if it happens and it all comes together. Then you had streaming, you had Twitch, you had chats, you had WhatsApp, you had Telegram. All of these things became a lot more instant, right? And then the user experience completely changed, and that unlocked all these new use cases. Then that drives the use cases that people would bridge assets for. So it kind of loops into that kind of conversation. But from where I think those two are the main, you can't tackle one without the other. You need to tackle both at the same time. But if you tackle both at the same time, it actually unlocks a lot more, I guess, like usage, and then the interoperability becomes a natural part of that. And at the same time, if you solve that dripping kind of effect, at the same time, your bridging is also going to be feeling a lot more fast in that sense. It's not even going to be a second. It's going to be based on the chain's finality. As long as the chain finalizes, you're done, right? Yeah.
I would echo that. I think transaction finality, settlement finality is extremely important. It's not just for user experience, for end users, but it's also a risk management thing, right? People need to know that those funds have settled. What we see on Algorand sometimes is when you bridge from Algorand, which has instant transaction finality, to another chain, it works beautifully. When you try to come back and you have to wait multiple confirmations from some of these chains, then users are like, what's going on? Why is this taking so long? And that makes for a really like asymmetric experience. And there's a lot of infrastructure under the hood, of course, with each chain and the relayers between. So I think that is still maturing, and there's still a lot of opportunities to provide an excellent user experience with the finality risk managed, right? If you can't confirm that transaction on a sending chain, you can abstract that away from the users so that whether it's a person or an agent and they need to move something of value from one chain to another, they can just get the confirmation and move on with whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, no question. Now, these answers are amazing, y'all. You guys are brilliant. So, as we get further into this, right, the industry is progressing, we're seeing institutional capital come in droves. We're seeing regulators across the world, open up the doors of their governments and their people to our industry. So, like everyone, right, we're all moving into this new world of Web3. But there's trade-offs with all of that, right? Some folks are, diehard cypherpunk. We can never work with the institutions, and some people are like, no, we really have to get to the level of which this industry can really thrive and be on a global stage. How do you guys work through this internally with your teams, right? Like, how do you move to onboard these new institutional players while at the same time maintaining those value-oriented relationships with the builders and the users that you already have? Is there a strategy that you play to? Just kind of open to answer it however you guys want.
It's a great question. We talk about this in strategy meetings all the time, and it's not a zero-sum game. When you have both of these types of projects on your chain, significant legacy institutions that can bring capital and trust, right, and existing user bases combined with the energy that you get from an entrepreneurial ecosystem, that's where the magic happens. I think one thing, though, is in 2026, when we think about financial applications, it's unlikely that an individual developer can bring to fruition a complete application in this regulated environment anymore. And so we want to be mindful of teams, right, that have a complete strategy, not just the technology, but also the business, the legal, the compliance, and so on and so forth, and distribution to bring this whole thing to mainnet successfully. So that's really, really important. And I think it may be time, maybe not, it may be time to call the old sort of mythology that an individual developer could create the next unicorn. Maybe we bring that to a close. I'm not sure that's realistic anymore, except for the fact that now you could have an army of agents working for you. So maybe the single entrepreneur, billion-dollar company is still possible.
With an army of agents behind them.
Exactly. One human, an army of agents.
Yeah.
For our team, we are very much we welcome regulation. And I think that is in a larger picture boils down to distribution.
Yep.
Regulation unlocks distribution because the governments have that in place where if you don't have regulation or you are not being regulated, your marketing power, you are stunted. You can't do anything, right? You have to rely on events, word of mouth, points that doesn't work anymore, referrals, things like that, right? But the moment you are licensed, right? Look at Kalshi. Boom, you hit ads. You can license, you can do anything you want. Now it's just throw money at the problem, essentially, right? Distribution is now a problem you can solve with money. And that's where I think for us, we are definitely in line with that. We want to be, at least the products that we launch, to be regulated, hopefully. And I think as the kind of regulation gets more mature, the frameworks in place, hopefully we work with the regulators, they would be more crypto native as well, so that they don't come up with ideas like let's KYC every transaction on the validator level, right? Those are ideas that just do not work.
Yep.
So we want these regulations to be, in a sense, built for our industry, so that we can unlock this distribution. Otherwise, what would happen is that there are already traditional players that have that distribution, have that license, and if we don't tap into that market in time, our technology is all open source.
Yep.
They are already copying it.
Yep.
And they will issue out their own stablecoins. They will launch their own chains, and they're going to eat up this market when we have been the ones building it over the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, right? So it becomes a race against time in this market. So I think everyone should write the rulebook as much as possible, work with regulators hand in hand in every region around the world, and make sure that we are guiding it towards a future that's, in the sense, even more cypherpunk in that sense, right? Because by working with these regulators, you unlock regulation that's more cypherpunk instead of letting the old guard, I guess, write the book and then copy our technology and then use it for more extraction in that sense.
Agreed.
So
I'd add here that being able to support an institution coming on chain has been one of the cornerstones of what we've been doing at Across. The most important thing for us has been that when an institution comes to any chain, and I'll give an example in just a short bit, what are the requirements and what are they actually looking for? It's maybe stablecoin payments, which is something that Polygon drilled on a lot, and all of Latin America now uses any protocol that's powered by Polygon to be able to pay vendors. If you were at Dev Connect a couple months ago, you would have seen that happen in real time. I was literally paying for things through my USDC balance on Polygon.
Yep.
That was pretty cool. But when more and more institutions like that come and they pick whatever chain they like, they want to make sure that A, they can move capital around, and B, their users who are used to having a certain amount of yield generated through these deposits of USDC, how do you do that on chain?
Yep.
So we identified these two areas, and then we realized, okay, cool, we can help them A, bring money on chain through whatever resources they have, but then also move it around through our infrastructure. And that is when exactly it was sort of a light bulb moment where we thought, okay, cool, the Swap API, which is our primary area of working with the cross-chain infrastructure at Across, can now support more than just intents. So that's when we added CCTP. That's when we added more mint and burn features. To now we can support up to $1 million in transfers, which is probably the highest in the industry. So when we saw that happen, we said, okay, cool. Now we're prepared for any institutional player to come in, use us with minimal support from us, or maybe just run an agent on top of it, and then you're done. So that's where we realized, okay, you should be able to move money around the chains, because what an institution would also hate is being on a chain that's dead, right? And there's plenty of those in today's ecosystem. It's kind of where we saw value. And then, of course, making AI a first-class citizen of whatever you're building is also important for a cypherpunk builder, but all these institutional players as well.
Right.
And that's exactly where we need to improve as an industry, and that's where we are also focused on, and we're heads down improving it.
I love it.
And yeah, that's about it.
I love that, man. And I want to shout out all the trade associations that are working on our behalf, all the people lobbying for the industry. For folks that are listening, if you're interested in regulation, check out the Clarity Act. It's a bill that's passing through the legislature right now. Back to your earlier point, right? Like, how do we keep small businesses engaged while these big players are coming in? They have all the tools that we have because we built them all open source. How can we protect the new builders that are coming in? And I think what they're trying to do is help these legislators who are not crypto native understand why a non-custodial wallet should not be regulated like a bank, or how a infrastructure company can be regulated by the CFTC by being properly decentralized. So we have cypherpunk-oriented people in these offices and in these rooms, like fighting for our industry, fighting for builder sovereignty, user sovereignty, and maintaining the values that got us all here in the first place. So I'm really, really bullish on Digital Chamber, Blockchain Association, Crypto Council for Innovation. Thank you guys, and everybody that's participating in those conversations. Now I want to transition a bit. We were talking about the more cut and dry, the regulation, how we're moving forward for the institutions. But as all good things come, let's get into a little bit of some hot takes. We're here to talk about Interop, Multichain. I'm curious, if you guys have any hot takes that you wanna drop on the crowd. Any spicy thoughts provoking for the audience, if you do.
With just a small show of hands, how many of you have used a bridge before? Okay. Do you guys think Interop is solved? See, now no hands are raising. No hands are raising. That's kind of my spicy take. Interop is not solved at all, which kind of got lukewarm because everybody agrees here. But it's funny because let's go back a little bit and let's talk about intent, for example. We all know what intents are. All right, it's just you define what you want, and then the infra underneath it just figures it out, right? When you bridge or when you use any Interop protocol, the focus is not to just bridge and now happily just keep that bridge token in your wallet and go to bed. It's always to deploy it somewhere, do something with it. I have a lot of volume of a lot of USDC on Arbitrum. I see yield opportunities on Optimism. I want to go there. I use an Interop protocol. I go there and I do whatever I want. So I want every application builder, every infra builder, every protocol builder to think about it for just 1 second and define, okay, I don't want to make my user go to a different application to use my application. It should all be underneath. If I can find an infrastructure player or an infrastructure, whatever, component that can make this work for me, I think that is what solves Interop in the best way possible. Because that's when the user does not even need to care about what's happening. You come, you see USDC, you deposit. Does not matter the chain you're on, does not matter, what is the protocol underneath all of this. It just simply works. And the best Web2 example for this is you load a website. Does it show you the EC2 instance it is running on Amazon? No, nobody cares about that. You go to Instagram, you post your photos, and you move on. And that's literally what Web3's future should be like when Interop is at the centerpiece of it. And that's kind of my hot take. Interop is not solved. We are getting close to it. We got to build better. But we have to all move together a little bit here and have all applications see the bigger vision that they can have and make these flows underneath. I think I can give a shout out here as well. I think one of the applications that is about to do this, and I think they've done this very, very well, is Uniswap. Because when you do a cross-chain flow in Uniswap, it all happens underneath. You don't really see it happening, and in seconds it's done. And we're happy to work on this with them. We love that team, and we're trying to find more and more like that. So that's basically my hot take.
I love that.
Yeah.
I also love the soft shell to work with Uniswap. You guys should reach out to them.
My hot take is that we should focus heavily on shared execution environments. Mainly because the internet as we know it is built like that, and I think it works the best. It helps users like one-shot things that they want to do, right? And that's actually how we built our own bridge as well. So we have a canonical bridge with Solana, and it's called the S bridge, where Solana and us, we share the same SVM. So what you could do, and the unique thing about Solana is that you can have instructions and you just add instructions, right? But if we're both running the same VM, we could swing like a transaction on one chain, hits the bridge, and it does it on the end, right? So it just does it all computed in one go, which allows people to do a lot of crazy things like I want to invoke a program on a different chain. And it just happens, right? And I think that goes back to your point on abstracting all of that away from the end user. But I think that one big thing is that you can do that when you have the same execution environment. But right now, most blockchains operate like a database, and then it's like we have separate databases, right? And we don't really share in that sense. So I think once we solve that, then liquidity, all of that kind of falls in place because it all follows from the, hey, we now all share the same, I guess, like we speak the same language in that sense. Yeah, that's basically my hot take.
I'll give you a really spicy take. All right. So right now, the multi-chain ecosystem essentially exists because there's value sloshing around on all these different chains, right? And most people are interested in how do I get the value from one chain to another. But one question that's not often being asked is, are the chains that are securing the value underneath at the fundamental level quantum secure, right? Because you have to protect the value at the protocol level. That's first principles. So one of the things we're doing at Algorand is securing the protocol against quantum attacks through using Falcon signatures, which is one of the NIST-approved algorithms that is understood to be more quantum resistant to protect the history of the chain, and more recently, accounts. And you can actually wrap an account in an application and require a Falcon signature to spend from that account. So when you think about protecting value on a bridge, you also need to ask the question of how are you protecting value on the protocols on either side of that bridge?
I love that. And there's a great research and development team at Aptos that's working on something like this as well. Shout out to the Move ecosystem. Shout out to the Move language. But I totally agree. I think it's like we're moving into this world where if we're not prepared for it, just like the advent of AI, right? It's not like you can fully prepare for it, but if you're not paying attention to it, man, what's that quote?
It'll sneak up on you.
Yeah, you don't plan to fail, you fail to plan.
Exactly.
And speaking to that, what a transition, my God. Speaking of planning, we talked about spicy takes, but I know all three teams that I'm on stage right now have phenomenal plans, have phenomenal teams. First of all, can we give a round of applause to them before we close this out? These crack speakers coming here, giving their time to us, very busy men. Talk to us a little bit about what you guys have going with the time we have left. I'd love to hear kind of, from each of you as we close this out, like what's on the roadmap? What are you guys excited about that you're working on?
I think the most exciting thing here for us is going to be free bridging into Hyperliquid, because it's the house of all things finance. So now today, when you want to go there, you want to build an application on top of it, whether it's liquid staking, another perp dex, whether it's another lending borrowing protocol, you can go and get your USDH for free for whatever USDH balance you have, up to $1 million. And that enables not just us, but so many new players coming into the Hyperliquid ecosystem. We're also improving a lot on our developer support here. So better APIs, better support, better routes, all of that is coming. And for everything else, you just got to follow across on Twitter. Just got to do it. And we'll post all the updates there. We are going to be around and doing multiple things, especially tomorrow at Hypefest. We are doing a bunch of cool things, which starts off with a couple activities and goes all the way to like a special event that we've got going on. So if you're around, please do come by. And that's kind of what we're cooking and what we've got in store.
From our side, so a couple of things. Number one, mainnet's going live. Right now we are in a permission mainnet. So builders can experience like 300k TPS live, right? And now they're going to go live in public with that. So people are going to do all sorts of crazy shit on our chain. Number two, so we have a crypto card. So crypto card is going to go live. It's already live. You can get it. But now physical cards are going to come. So plastic, full metal, things like that. And together with that, we're actually launching a mobile app as well. So the mobile app will have the card install, will have P2P payments as well. So it will look like your consumer neobank, where everything's in there, yield everything you can send to your friends, and it's going to be really cheap because all the payments can be settled on Solr at less than 400 milliseconds.
300,000 TPS.
Yeah. And the benchmark for that is like a lot of chains self-transfer themselves like the native token at 300,000 TPS, and they call it 300,000.
Yeah.
We do everything at it, like swaps, all sorts of messy state overlaps. So the benchmark is we can push like raw like 300k TPS.
Visa and MasterCard gotta look out for you guys. Do 300,000 and the card.
Yeah. And then I guess there's one more news. We're going to launch a product on our chain and on Solana as well. So that one is it's going to be secret. That's going to come out soon. And then you will know when it comes out. So yeah.
All right.
So at Algorand, we're really excited about the agentic economy for two reasons. So recently, we got our Algorand flavor of the X402 toolset merged into that repo, and the ability to settle transactions instantly through agentic commerce is really powerful. The other thing that we've done that we haven't talked as much about perhaps is at the end of last year, we brought Algorand TypeScript to 1.0. So you can write smart contracts in real, semantically correct TypeScript. And in the last 6 months, this has become, in hindsight, a brilliant decision because TypeScript has become the language of AI, as it turns out. And so now you have the combination of the ability for agents to transact on-chain, but also build their own applications on-chain. And just in the past few weeks, seeing what some agent skills can unlock for Claude Code, let's say, to build decentralized apps on-chain, with off-chain components and beautiful UI and everything, like one-shotting these applications is absolutely incredible. So we're really excited to see not just the transactions on-chain, but also all sorts of novel applications being built in ways that we may never have anticipated.
Let's fucking go. Well, listen, y'all, I'm inspired. I'm motivated. It does not feel like a bear market on this stage. Thank you guys for the work you're doing. If you guys haven't seen their names at the top, please follow them. If you're tuning in from the live stream, thank you for being here. And if you're in the crowd, let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you guys so much.